There is a certain kind of woman whose presence isn't loud, yet it lingers. She doesn't compete, doesn't chase, doesn't over-explain, and still the right man moves toward her with clarity and intention. Not because she manipulates or performs, but because she understands something most people overlook. Connection begins with energy, not effort. A woman with emotional intelligence isn't trying to prove her worth, she simply knows it. She carries herself in a way that communicates, I am whole, with or without you. And that truth is magnetic. She listens to her intuition instead of her fears. She recognizes the difference between chemistry and compatibility. She sees beyond words into the subtle signals, the tone, the pauses, the patterns. She doesn't attach herself to potential, she responds only to reality. This is why she doesn't get trapped in confusion. She doesn't need to decode mixed signals because she refuses to entertain them. Such a woman inspires a man to rise, not because she demands it, but because her presence naturally sets a standard. She doesn't chase because she knows that someone who wants to be in her life won't need to be convinced. Instead, she focuses on living in a way that brings her joy, peace, and groundedness. She becomes the woman who chooses herself, and that is the woman a man chooses to pursue. She understands that polar attraction is created when she stays anchored in her own emotional world rather than trying to enter someone else's to earn affection. She knows that the right man is drawn not to her perfection, but to her authenticity. She allows herself to be soft without being weak, receptive without being passive, compassionate without abandoning herself. Her boundaries are not walls, they are invitations. This is how love feels here. If you can meet me, you're welcome. And that is why men chase her. Because she isn't chasing them. She is chasing her own evolution, and he wants to be part of that journey. She leads with her energy, not her effort, because she understands that the deepest connections are formed long before words are spoken or actions are taken. Her presence communicates what she values, what she tolerates, and what she refuses to accept. She doesn't push, pursue, or force anything to happen. She simply allows her authentic energy to speak on her behalf. There is a quiet power in the way she carries herself, a sense of inner certainty that tells the world she does not need to chase what is already aligned with her. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. She knows that effort without connection becomes desperation, and she is unwilling to shrink herself to earn what should flow naturally. Instead of trying to impress, she chooses to express. Her energy conveys confidence without words, boundaries without confrontation, and self-worth without explanation. She understands that when a woman overextends herself, she interrupts the natural rhythm of connection. The moment she begins to prove, pursue, or perform, she shifts from magnetism to imbalance. So she doesn't force emotions or demand reciprocity. She knows that when someone is genuinely interested, effort becomes effortless, and she has no desire to chase someone who only wants to be caught when convenient. Her energy becomes a signal, a clear message that says, I am here, but I am not waiting. I am present, but I am not pausing my life. I am open, but I am not emptying myself for you. This quiet strength is what draws the right man toward her, because he can feel the difference between a woman who needs attention and a woman who chooses connection. She leads with her energy by living in alignment with who she truly is. She invests in her passions, her growth, her emotional world, not because it makes her attractive, but because it makes her whole. And wholeness is irresistible. When she walks into a room, she doesn't try to be noticed. She simply embodies herself, and that authenticity is what makes her unforgettable. Her energy communicates availability without attachment, softness without sacrifice, and openness without expectation. She knows that real attraction doesn't need to be pushed, it only needs space to breathe, and because she refuses to abandon her inner world for anyone. The right man instinctively steps closer, drawn by the effortless gravity of a woman who leads not by chasing but by simply being. She knows her worth without needing validation because her sense of value comes from within, not from the unpredictable approval of others. She has met herself, her strengths, her wounds, her resilience, and she understands that her worth is not something to be negotiated. It is not dependent on who chooses her, who compliments her, or who notices her. She does not wait for someone to tell her she is enough. She wakes up already knowing it. This inner certainty frees her from the exhausting cycle of seeking reassurance. Instead of trying to keep someone interested, she focuses on staying true to herself. She doesn't fear being alone because she understands the difference between loneliness and self-abandonment. Being alone does not diminish her value, it protects it until someone worthy arrives. She refuses to shrink herself just to be accepted. She does not lower her standards to secure affection, nor does she betray her boundaries to avoid losing someone. She knows that anything gained by abandoning yours, LF eventually becomes another form of loss. So she stays rooted in her truth, even when it costs her people who were never meant to stay. Her self-worth allows her to walk away not out of anger, but out of clarity. She recognizes when someone cannot meet her emotionally, and instead of fighting for crumbs, she chooses peace. This choice is not a performance, it is her natural state. She understands that genuine connection only deepens when you stop begging for emotional scraps. She doesn't need validation because she validates herself. She celebrates her own accomplishments, acknowledges her own growth, and speaks kindly to herself during difficult moments. She knows how to soothe her emotions without seeking temporary reassurance from others. And because she is secure within her own identity, she becomes immune to manipulation. Mixed signals don't confuse her, emotional inconsistency doesn't hook her. She sees through the games that rely on insecurity, and she responds with distance instead of desperation. Her confidence is quiet, grounded, and deeply felt. This inner worth is what makes her magnetic. She becomes a woman who doesn't ask, "Am I good enough?" but instead wonders, "Is this aligned with who I am?" She does not chase admiration, yet she receives it naturally because her confidence is effortless. People are drawn to someone who doesn't need to be chosen to feel valuable. She knows her worth, not because the world reminded her, but because she finally remembered it herself. She responds to actions, not potential, because she has learned that emotional promises mean nothing without consistency to support them. She has witnessed how easily words can be shaped to fit a moment, how quickly someone can speak in the language of desire while living in habits of avoidance. She no longer allows fantasies to blind her to reality. Potential is intoxicating. It paints a picture of what someone could be, the partner they might become, the love story that almost exists. But she isn't interested in almost anymore. She refuses to pour her heart into a version of someone that only shows up in her imagination. So she pays attention to patterns, not promises, behavior, not assumptions, consistency, not chemistry. This doesn't make her cold. It makes her awake. She knows that genuine intention reveals itself through effort. A man who wants to be part of her life will take steps forward, not back. Quad. He will make space instead of excuses. He will follow through instead of leaving her suspended between hope and confusion. She doesn't chase missing pieces, nor does she wait for someone to suddenly transform into who she hoped they'd be. She understands that time has a way of exposing what is real and what is simply potential disguised as progress. If someone's actions are inconsistent, she responds with distance, not desperation. If the effort fades, she mirrors that energy by stepping back. She protects her emotional world by refusing to nurture a connection that only grows on one side. She has evolved past the stage where she tries to convince someone to show up. She doesn't water dead plants or force a connection that lacks reciprocity. Instead, she values herself enough to let go of what doesn't move with her. She observes how someone treats her when admiration settles, when comfort arrives, when habits take over. It is easy to act interested for a moment. She looks for the man who chooses her in the long term. She measures interest not by intensity but by consistency, not by what someone feels in a moment but by what they do repeatedly. Responding to actions keeps grounded in reality. It preserves her self-respect, sharpens her intuition, and protects her from being entangled in emotional illusions. She no longer invests in who someone could be, she invests only in who they are right now. And that shift in awareness becomes her power. Because a woman who trusts actions over potential cannot be misled. She sees clearly, chooses wisely, and attracts a man who shows up fully, not a man who only shows promise. Her boundaries create attraction because they reveal a woman who knows how to protect her emotional world without apologizing for it. She is not guarded, but she is discerning. She does not let people wander in and out of her life based on convenience or temporary desire. Instead, she chooses who gets access to her energy, her time, and her heart. And that selectiveness is magnetic. A woman with boundaries doesn't weaponize distance, she simply honors her own worth. She isn't afraid to say no, to walk away, or to choose herself when the situation asks her to abandon her standards. This ability to stand firm, even when emotions are involved, creates a sense of respect, and respect is the foundation of genuine attraction. She understands that boundaries are not about punishment, they are about clarity. They show a man how to love her, how to treat her, how to approach her. They eliminate confusion and emotional chaos. She is not interested in unpredictable connections that keep her guessing. She values consistency, communication, and intention, and her boundaries filter out anything less. When she states her needs calmly and confidently, she shows that she expects maturity, not excuses. This level of self-respect challenges a man to elevate himself, not because she demands it, but because her energy inspires it. Her boundaries become a quiet reminder that access to her is a privilege, not an entitlement. She does not try to be available for everything and everyone. She chooses peace over chaos, alignment over attachment. When someone crosses a boundary, she doesn't explode or threaten, she simply withdraws her presence. She knows that a man who is genuinely interested will adjust, not resist. He will move with the connection instead of pushing against it. Her calm detachment in these moments communicates a powerful message. She would rather be alone in her truth than partnered in confusion. This is the kind of strength that draws the right man closer, because he can feel that she is not holding on out of fear, but choosing out of desire. Her boundaries also create attraction by highlighting her emotional independence. She isn't driven by insecurity or the need to control the outcome. She gives space when needed. She takes time for herself, and she maintains her own identity. This balance of openness and self-protection makes her deeply compelling. She doesn't merge with someone instantly. She allows the connection to unfold naturally. And because she respects herself, she attracts someone who respects her too. Her boundaries are not barriers to love. They are doorways. Only those who are meant to walk through them will. She remains emotionally grounded because she understands that her power lies not in reacting to every feeling, but in responding from a place of clarity and inner steadiness. She does not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. She knows that attraction can be thrilling, uncertainty can be tempting, and intensity can feel like destiny, yet she refuses to lose herself in the rush of it all. Her emotional world is stable because she takes responsibility for her own feelings instead of handing that responsibility to someone else. She doesn't expect another person to soothe her insecurities or fix her fears. She takes time to understand herself, to breathe through discomfort, and to return to her center before she speaks or chooses. This level of awareness makes her rare, and that rarity makes her magnetic. She does not create drama to feel valued or start arguments to seek reassurance. She understands that emotional chaos may get attention, but it never creates real intimacy. So she chooses emotional honesty instead of emotional volatility. When she feels anxious, she reflects before assuming. When she feels triggered, she observes before reacting. When she feels unsafe, she communicates rather than attacking or withdrawing in silence. She is not perfect. She is simply present. She recognizes her own patterns, and instead of letting them run her relationships, she chooses to rewrite them. This grounded way of being allows her to connect deeply without losing her sense of self. She remains emotionally grounded because she has healed the part of her that once believed love had to be earned through overgiving or overthinking. She is no longer pulled by the need to chase, fix, or control. She knows that the right connection doesn't require her to abandon her emotional balance. She understands that if someone wants to be in her life, they will move toward her with consistency rather than chaos. This understanding gives her peace. She doesn't get swept away by flattery or empty promises, because she listens to the steady rhythm of actions, not the sudden spark of intensity. She trusts what unfolds slowly and genuinely, not what rushes in with grand gestures and disappears just as fast. Her emotional groundedness becomes a source of attraction because it communicates stability, maturity, and self-respect. A man feels safe around her, not because she demands nothing, but because she reacts from a place of strength rather than fear. She doesn't try to control the connection. She allows it to unfold naturally. And because she stays rooted in herself, she invites someone who is equally rooted, equally mature, and equally capable of building something real. She focuses on her own growth because she understands that a fulfilled woman is not created through relationships, attention, or external validation. She is built within. Her life does not pause while she waits for someone to choose her. Instead, she pours her time, energy, and intention into becoming the most aligned version of herself. She invests in her passions, her goals, her healing, and her evolution. This does not make her selfish, it makes her whole. She knows that the right relationship complements her journey, but it does not define it. She refuses to shrink her dreams to fit into someone else's comfort or slow her growth to match someone else's pace. She holds herself to a higher standard, one that challenges her to keep rising, even when no one is watching. She focuses on her growth because she has learned that a woman who is deeply connected to her own purpose becomes magnetic without trying. She doesn't need to chase love or beg for effort because her life is already rich with meaning. A woman who is building herself becomes someone others naturally want to build with. Her ambition inspires. Her discipline commands respect. Her joy becomes contagious. The right man is drawn to her not because she needs him, but because she is open to sharing her world without depending on him to complete it. She thrives independently, and at independence attracts someone who wants to add to her life, not control it. Her personal growth also protects her from settling. As she evolves, she becomes more aware of what aligns with her and what doesn't. She no longer entertains connections that drain her or relationships that stunt her progress. She understands that love should elevate, not diminish, so she chooses partners who support her expansion, not those who feel threatened by it. She would rather walk alone than dim her light to make someone else comfortable. This self-awareness becomes her compass, guiding her toward people who match her energy, her values, and her trajectory. She focuses on her growth because she knows that a relationship cannot carry the weight of an unfulfilled soul. She nurtures her mind, her emotions, her body, and her spirit so she can show up wholeheartedly in love, not from a place of lack. She is continuously evolving, continuously learning, continuously rising. And because she is committed to her own journey, she naturally attracts someone who respects her path and desires to grow with her. Her evolution becomes her magnetism, and her wholeness becomes her greatest power. In the end, the reason she is effortlessly magnetic is simple. She chose herself first, not in a way that rejects love, but in a way that creates space for real love to find her. She became the woman who no longer chases, proves, or pleads, the woman who trusts her own energy, honors her worth, responds to truth, and protects her peace. She grounded herself so deeply in her own becoming that a man cannot help but feel the difference when he meets her. She is not waiting to be chosen, she is choosing the life she wants to live, and that is why she is pursued. Not because she plays games, but because she lives in truth, not because she withholds, but because she overflows. Not because she tries to be irresistible, but because she is aligned, self-aware, and whole. The right man doesn't chase her because she is hard to get. He chases her because she is hard to forget. She has become the woman whose presence feels like clarity in a world full of confusion, the woman whose energy feels like home to a man who is finally ready to rise. And she knows that the love meant for her will always recognize her, because she no longer hides who she truly is.